Happy President's Day. It is time for our afternoon story. I hope you've had a productive day. And we're going to read this wonderful book, The Oldest Student, How Mary Walker Learned to Read. And this is by Rita Lorraine Hubbard and Caldecott Honor winner Ogi Mora, or Ogi Mora is the illustrator. You're never too old to learn. That's the truth. It does not matter on this President's Day. You can be a leader at any age. Remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg? She would just keep on serving in the Supreme Court well into her, upper 80s and just lifelong appointments. And I just believe that you're never too old to pursue your dreams and make an impact. So let's be inspired here. And, oh my goodness. In 1848, Mary Walker was born into slavery. At the age 15, she was freed. At 20, she was married and had her first child. At 68, she was still working and raising money for her church. And at 116, Mary Walker learned to read. Age 116. That is outstanding because over 100 years before that, that's when she was freed. So it took her a century, but it doesn't matter. It wasn't too late. Oh, if this is not inspiring, I don't know what will be inspiring for you. To get up, to get moving. Let's go. Whenever young Mary Walker was tired, she would shield her eyes from the sun and watch the swallow-tailed kites dip and soar above the trees. That must be what it's like to be free, she thought. Right? Oh, it's nothing like having liberty. But Mary didn't watch for long. Even at only 8 years old, she knew the first rule of the Union Springs, Alabama plantation she lived on. Keep working. She knew the second rule, too. Slaves should not be taught to read or write or do anything that might help them learn to do so. Mary didn't stop working. She didn't learn to read either, but at the end of each long day picking cotton, toting water to Papa and the other slaves who chopped wood for the train tracks or helping Mama clean the big house, she would lie in her little bed next to the crumbling fireplace and think about those birds. When I'm free, I'll go where I want and rest when I want, and I'll learn to read too. How so many of us just take it for granted to be able to pick up a book. When she was 15, it happened. Mary and her mother and her brothers and sisters were free. The Emancipation Proclamation said so. What it didn't say was how a family with nothing except the tattered garments on their backs could find food, clothes, and a place to sleep. Mary's father had died and the family was on its own. Did they become indentured servants? Freedom Road to Freedom Road. Across fields and through woods, ex-slaves surged like waves crashing hard to shore. Now that they were free, every road was Freedom Road. Many headed north and west and every which way, searching for long-lost family members or simply experiencing the wonder of being free. Others, like Mary, chose to stay in the South. An organization called the Freedmen's Bureau helped those who stayed to find shelter on abandoned Confederate land. Mary and her family settled in a one-room cabin, and for the next few years, she worked alongside her mama to help feed her siblings. 7 days a week, she churned butter, cleaned houses, and cared for other folks' children. The hours were long, and if Mary was thirsty or hungry or needed to use the outhouse, she had to wait until she got home. At week's end, she would offer Mama the one lonely quarter she had earned. My my goodness. One day, Mary met a group of evangelists on the roadside. A woman with soft wrinkles in her kindly face placed a big, beautiful Bible in Mary's hand and told her, "Your civil rights are in these pages." Mary didn't know what civil rights were. She only knew that top to bottom, front to back, that book was filled with words. "I'm going to learn to read those words," she vowed. But not today. Today there was work to be done. And tomorrow too, when Mary got married, she and her husband worked as sharecroppers, renting someone else's house, using someone else's tools, and planting someone else's seeds to farm land they would never own. After they harvested the crops, almost all the money they earned went to pay for the housing, tools, and seed costs. Mary was 20 years old when her first son was born. She opened her Bible and marveled at the squiggles inside. There had been no time to learn to read. A friend wrote Mary's son's birth date in the Bible, August 26, 1869. Then Mary dipped a pen into an inkwell and made her mark beside it. Not a letter, not a name, just a mark. It was the best she could do. One day, Mary's husband died. She married again, and a second son was born. Then a third. Mary made marks for these sons, too. Now she had 3 growing boys. More money, that's what we need, Mary thought. But the only other jobs available to Black women were as maids or nannies or cooks. The hours were long, with only half a day off on Saturdays, and like sharecropping, they didn't pay much. Mary sighed. Words would have to wait. For the next 4 decades, you think life has passed you by. For the next 4 decades, Mary sharecropped and did odd jobs to help support her family. In 1917, Mary's family moved to the little city of Chattanooga, Tennessee. It was the year of Chattanooga's Great Flood. The story was in all the newspapers, but Mary could only study the pictures to understand what had happened. By now, Mary was 68 and too old to sharecrop, but she continued to work, cooking, cleaning, and babysitting. She also fried fish, baked cakes, and sold sandwiches to raise money for her church, just like Georgia Gilmore, how she raised funds by cooking and baking, and she supplied funds for the Montgomery bus boycott. Yeah. On Sundays, she would sit in the congregation, and as the preacher spoke, she would clutch her family Bible, the Bible she still couldn't read. Oh my, this is life-changing. When Mary was well past 90, she and her husband sat in their creaky rockers while one or another of their sons read to them. After the 2 younger boys died, the eldest read, and then Mary's husband died. Several years later, her eldest son died too. He was 94. Mary had outlived her entire family. She was 114 years old and alone. Can't read, can't write. I don't know anything. Mary stood at the window of her retirement home and gazed down at the world below. Words were everywhere, on billboards, on buildings, on store windows and trucks. She sighed all this time, she thought, and they still look like squiggles. And it's amazing that she still had her sight. Oh my. Mary had heard about a new reading class held in her building. She pursed her lips. No more waiting. Time to learn. Out of her apartment, into an elevator, and down to the lobby she went. When the elevator doors sprang open, Mary saw people sitting under a sign with a picture of an open book. She could not read the words. A neighbor walked up to her. "That's a reading class, Miss Mary. Can I help you over?" Mary shook her head. Then she gripped her cane, lifted her chin, and walked straight toward that sign. For the next year and more, Mary put everything she had into learning to read. It wasn't easy. After all, she was the oldest student in the class and probably in the entire country. Could someone her age learn to read? She didn't know, but by God, she was going to try. She studied the alphabet until her eyes watered. She memorized the sounds each letter made and practiced writing her name so many times that her fingers cramped. She learned to recognize sight words and then challenged herself to make short sentences with them. She studied and studied until books and pages and letters and words swirled in her head while she slept. Isn't this remarkable? Oh my. One fine day, Mary's hard work paid off. She could read. Word of her accomplishment traveled, and people everywhere celebrated with her. Chattanooga's mayor, newspaper journalists across the country, and a man from the U.S. Department of Education who said, "Mrs. Mary Walker, I pronounce you the nation's oldest student," all shared her joy. Happy birthday, Grandma Walker. Will you look at this? Will you look at this accomplishment? Mary felt complete. She still missed her sons, but whenever she was lonely, she read from her Bible or looked out her window, like my grandmother used to do, and read the words in the streets below. From then on, Chattanooga honored Mary's achievement with yearly birthday parties. In 1966, President Lyndon B. Johnson sent well wishes on Mary's 118th birthday. And in 1969, President Richard Nixon did the same. Mary was now 121 years old. Mary received many gifts over the years: a radio, a sofa, her very first television, a new Bible, the key to the city, and perfume and champagne from the Canadian Mounties. She also received something that brought back those long days in the Alabama cotton fields, her first airplane ride. From the cockpit window, Mary gazed at the trees and rooftops below. No different than a horse and buggy ride, she joked, but she knew it was. As the airplane dipped and soared like those swallow-tailed kites of long ago, Mary decided that flying was a lot like reading. They both made a body feel as free as a bird. Each year before her birthday celebration came to an end, someone would whisper, "Let's listen to Miss Mary." The shuffling and movement would fade away until not a sound was heard. Then Mary would stand on her old legs, clear her old throat, and read from her Bible or her school book in a voice that was clear and strong. When she finished, she would gently close her book and say, "You're never too old to learn." Oh my goodness. I know I'm inspired here. Oh, look at these real pictures. Mary being feted on her 99th birthday. This is her at 121 in Chattanooga. She reads to her teacher, Helen Kelly, and Helen Kelly presents Mary with her first graduation certificate, which declares that she can read. Oh, never too old. Rita Lorraine Hubbard is the author of Hammering for Freedom, the William Lewis story. She also wrote a number of nonfiction books for adults. She lives in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And Oji Mora, this is debut picture book was Thank You, Omu. She received a Caldecott honor, and she is a John Steptoe Award for New Talent recipient. And she said that Ms. Mora's illustrations from the New York Times, someone said, will have toddlers reaching out to grab them. She is a talented artist. And that's what I'm saying. Whether you're an artist, a writer, whatever you want to do, whatever that dream is, you're never too old as long as you have breath. And please look at the author's note and gain inspiration. All right, let's get moving, y'all.